Good evening, everyone. Welcome you all over here for today's session, which is focused on branding essential for startup by our today's speaker, Mili Kataria. I would like to welcome her for for taking this session move ahead. Before it, I would like to introduce our today's speaker and some brief about her to all of you. So I would like to welcome our today's speaker, Mili Kataria, to this session. She is a head branding and marketing at Hesa, also founder at Pandora's Box. Pandora's Box is our own consulting firm in this marketing and branding domain. So, would like to add more about her that she loves to do what she is doing, and she helps startups in a way of understanding and exploring by their core and translate into their growth story. Here is the thing which you might find very interesting about Millie. And she's an entrepreneur with 24 plus years of experience across marketing, event management, and banking. Her core competency is brand building through focused traditional marketing and digital marketing efforts. So thank you so much, Millie, to come here and having this session with us. I'm handing this over to you. Thank you.
Just before Mili start to add, she is one of the best mentor Headstart have got and have been, mentoring so many startups which are coming from Headstart or from the partner side to help them with perfecting or to making a best pitch kind of thing. So I remember with Venture Challenge, Covisol, GKLU Rise program, all the programs she have been over there constantly supporting us. Thank you, Mili, for joining us.
Definitely.
Yes, thank you so very much, both of you. Brilliant intro of me. I wouldn't have done it so good. So thank you again. What I believe is, corporates, wherever they are, brands, wherever they are because, they thought of it at a certain point of time. There was a need in the market, and then they grew. What is happening is, that seed of entrepreneurship is very, very prominent, you can say, in India, and a lot of people do have that entrepreneur bent, but sometimes they lose their way, and they do not realize it. So startup form of entrepreneurship is, it's gaining a lot of momentum, and it's gaining a lot of recognition also in India and everywhere else. And I would like to, always call myself the privileged one, wherein I've been able to add value to the startup ecosystem and, help these startups grow into the brands that they are right now, or they would want to or aspire to be. So having said that, as everybody knows that we are going to talk about branding today. Branding the correct way is something which a lot of people, have. What I would say is, when we talk about marketing and branding, and especially when we talk about branding, a lot of times we get lost into or we get confused into understanding only one aspect of branding and leave the other aspects unopened or undiscovered. So I hope there's going to be it's going to be an interactive session first things. And I don't mind you all unmute yourself and ask your questions when I ask you the relevant questions. I mean, give your answers as well, because I like that little bit of interaction when I am giving my presentation. So we'll start with that. So my first question to everybody which comes is, what is a brand to you? Here, if you want to answer and put it on a chat, or unmute yourself and answer your this question, it'll be great. Okay. Bagdasi, can you just check the chat and let me know if somebody's answered? Otherwise, we'll go ahead and
Okay, so may I answer this question?
Please go ahead.
Yes. So, in my perspective, brand is something when a unique thing about your service or your product. I should explain by example that if I talk about a watch or if I am talking about a shoes, then there should be a click in a first click in a mind. It comes like a Nike or something. So that is something brand. I think so.
Okay, so you pretty close on that. Basically, see, when we are talking about brand, what we also say that a brand is a complete experience that a consumer has with its company and its products and services. So like I said, we are not just looking at a physical aspect of branding, we are also looking at the non-tangible aspects of branding, which I will be touching upon. But then if you see, I have taken out that particular word, complete experience. It is a 360 degrees experience that any consumer will have with the company or interact with it, with its products and services. So that is what is a brand to many people, and that is what is a brand should be for your consumers as well. Just keep the yeah, Bhagdasi, just keep on looking at the chat window because I see a lot of answers would have come.
Yes.
So yeah, right. I will go ahead. So my next
We do have got few responses. I think Buddhasi, you can pick them up so that Mili can give some hint.
Yes, sure. I can do that. So we have got a response on perspective of what is brand. So there is Fanindra Durba is there who is saying self-identity. Mayank Goyal has commented as the world's most successful companies grow by word of mouth. This is brand. Then Renu has answered as something by which one can recognize what that is, like a Google or Coke. Then Nishant sir has replied that it's an illusion which customers have on the company. And Chandan Saho has commented as well. Photocopy machine is called as Xerox machine, that is called branding.
yeah, so I believe yeah, I was a little fast in giving my slide before everybody commented, so I'll take care that everybody is commenting through the chat window. Yes, so like we have spoken about, it is an entire experience. So when we are talking about brand, what mostly people think is it's the logo and it's the tagline that is the most relevant, or that is actually the brand. But then that's what we are over here for. We are not talking about just the logo and the tagline of a company, which consists or which makes your brand. It is more things than that. It is something which you personify with. So it is when you let me just give you an example. So when I'm talking about all these brands, that is Microsoft, Being Human, Xiaomi, Paytm, and there will be more, Nykaa, Freshworks, what comes to our mind? I mean, what do we think is the common link between them as brands? What is the biggest common factor between all these? I have switched off my video because there was a little bandwidth issue. So yeah, Bhagdasi, you can let me know if there's somebody who's given the answer in the chat.
Not yet. So
I'll go ahead. Then I'll go ahead. It is so when you're talking about these brands, it is their superior brand recall. Now, what do you understand by superior brand recall? It is you take their names and you know what you're talking about, what is their products and how are their services, what kind of customer experience they have, and so on so forth. You just you have now started associating your your needs with these brands. So if you need a laptop, the first thing that comes into mind is, get a Microsoft laptop. Or if you want a software to be loaded, we only talk about Microsoft Office. So these are the different things or the different aspects of a brand that comes to your mind first whenever we talk about these brands. Then these ones, that is Xerox, Maggie, Google, Bisleri. So someone had mentioned that you speak about photocopier machine. Actually, nobody speaks about photocopier machine nowadays. They only say Xerox lena hai, please give me a Xerox of these pages. Actually, the task is photocopying, and Xerox is again a brand which started with photocopiers, and they became so synonymous and associated to the product that they released under their banner, that is Xerox, and the photocopier machine, that people actually, for competition also, it became so difficult to be able to disassociate themselves from this particular brand called Xerox. So any photocopier machine that you had, people used to still say, I want a Xerox. Same thing goes for Maggie. I mean, you talk about, somebody, we never talk about Hakka noodles. We only say Maggie noodles. That's all we say. Pani ke liye, for water, we say Bisleri dena. We never say Aquafina dena, or, give me a Kinley. We don't say that. We just say Bisleri do. So, these are the kind of associations, brand associations that we have grown up with, or, we have come to speak of. Google, small, the biggest example is Google. I will never say, let me go and do a web search. I will say, I'll go and do a Google. It just stands for a search engine. So, this is the kind of brand recall, brand association that everybody, every company, every startup, every enterprise is looking at, that they should become synonymous to something. So that's what a brand is all about. Now, these two examples, I set them aside because you see, it's just Times New Roman and an italics given to HCL. It's just tilted. It's no, it's no jing bang with it, or there's no decoration to this logo, but this logo right now has a market cap of $50 billion. How did it grow into such a big name? It's because what it stood for. So, the logo and the tagline, apart from that, they had they had that brilliant engagement with their consumers. They had that brilliant association or recall value with their consumers. They still stand for you need to get a laptop, desktop, you need to get any kind of a computer equipment. HCL is the brand for you. So that's the kind of associations people are looking for. Same goes for Tata. Tata has a Tanishq, Tata has a Titan, Tata has so many sub brands below its umbrella of Tata. But then we are not disassociating these brands, that is a Tanishq or a Titan, from Tata. We still call a jewelry shop, the Tanishq jewelry shop, as an Tata brand, Tanishq. So this is what brand recall should be for us. Are you the biggest? Are you the next big brand? So that's the question that we are all talking about, that we all as startups look at when we start our journey from being just a product or just an MVP to the product or to the service that we will be 6 years down the line. It is so, it is not always an instant result. Yes, your logo and your tagline is an instant result, but building your brand is a longish process, and it's a constant process. It's a constant effort. You cannot say that, let me finish creating my MVP, let me finish creating my pitch deck, let me finish selling my product to the first 5 customers at least, and then I'll build my brand. It doesn't happen like that. You need to be building your brand from the day zero, that you have thought that I want to start my startup called XYZ. So that's the way you go about building a brand. There are certain things where, we always should be, there are certain questions we should be asking ourselves when we are talking about, why should we be building the brand? So, there's this one pertinent question, why branding? Then there is, what is, what is branding for me? And then there is, how do I brand? So there are these three questions. The answers, or the way you will, find a balance between starting something small and then bringing it building it big, will be through answering these questions and through different activities that you can do to be able to make that name or make that brand for your startup. The first question, like I said, why do we need branding? And that's I think so. My all this while that I've been associated with startups and I'm helping them with their branding and marketing activities. The first thing that comes as a question to me is, why do I need branding now? Why can't I brand myself a little later? There are certain elements to a branding exercise or to brand yourself. One of them being, how do you position yourself in the market for your consumers to see you? If you are not able to position yourself in the market the way you wanted to from the day one, your perception of your brand is very, very different from what you want it to be. And then 6 months down the line or a year down the line, when you want to do a market survey, or you want to see why are things not moving your way, or what can you do better, you are already pretty late in the day to be able to again start branding from scratch. You might have to rebrand, and rebrand, mind you, is a big task, and it is a much more time consuming and money consuming task, because people have already created a perception about you. They've already created a personality out of your brand, and it is very hard to get that back to the ground zero and then again build a new perception. So it's what I always say is, leave the monetary or the financial part of branding for a little later, wherein you need to spend some money into branding, but use those organic methods from the scratch or the day one, wherein you will be able to build upon your brand. And then when you are at that position where you can spend some money and create a good brand for yourself, or just take that legacy and build it to be bigger, you can begin. The main questions that you should be asking when you are talking about why you need branding, see, basically what happens is, in almost 90% of the cases in startups, you are doing something. In fact, I'll say 100%. You're doing something which either a competition is already done, you are adding some new features and bringing it to the market, or you are doing something which is traditionally done in a different way, and you're just you're creating that edge or that differentiator of that product and service to be done easily rather than the traditional way. So in any of the scenarios, you need to have that differentiator available, or you need to note down or formalize the differentiators that you will be able to use to be able to position your brand to your consumers, to say, yes, these are the 3 things we do differently from our competition or the traditional way, and hence you need to know our brand and you need to know us. Branding, I mean, there's no second thoughts about it. The moment you have a beautiful differentiator, you have your value proposition in place, you can, there will be an association which will get formed between these 2 aspects, and that's where your brand will shine. So that is one thing. Branding, I mean, create a recall that everyone understands that, if you see a product like I mean, I've shown you in the previous slides that, you see a photocopier machine, the first thing you say is Xerox. So this is the kind of recall we would like to have for our, our brand and, I mean, products and services. Financial value of business. So you will be, so again, this is for something later, but then you also, there is always a brand value which is associated to your brand. That is again going down forward, but then yes, it is very much a palpable brand value that we are talking about. A lot of a lot of brands, when they got merged or they got pulled into a bigger brands, those bigger brands have paid a lot of money, which is over and above their actual valuation of the company, because they had a huge brand value. And that's where you can ask for that premium that you are you want for your product and service. So I mean, when you are, then the most important thing is, which is actually a pain point right now with startups, is attracting good talent, attracting top talent. Because I mean, it is a normal or a corporate job with a good brand is always taken in as a good point in your career, rather than you working for a startup or you being associated to a startup. So the moment you have a good brand value, that you will get those cream talents, you get those big names or employees who will be associated with you. The second question that I had asked you all was, what makes a brand? So here I would like to ask again to everybody, what do you think, what is that one point? Everybody just type in which makes a brand.
Okay, we have responses in a chat box.
W thing only, great customer experience, words, trustworthiness, quality of a product. So I liked it when somebody wrote great customer experience. So I would.
Ratan wants to say something. Yes, Ratan.
Yes, I believe that it's a set of elements that is communicated repeatedly, right? So basically a philosophy that people would believe in. That's what makes a brand. And definitely customer experience and the word of mouth definitely comes along as well.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, great inputs, and I will take this further down and show this to you. I have tried to get in all elements, as many elements possible, but then these are also not the whole and soul of what makes a brand. But yeah, these are the most important elements which we can look at and start building our brand with these elements in picture. So there is your value proposition. That's the main thing. If your product, your value proposition is not there, you create a big brand, it's just thin air. You don't have meat, you don't have material to give to your consumers. So that is the foremost that we can talk about. We have employees. I believe when you're, okay, so when somebody said that, customer service, how does customer service take place? It takes place through your employees. A very, potent example is, I am a consumer. I go to a customer service call center. I speak to one person and I get an answer that, you have to do X, Y, Z. After a day or two, or, I forgot to ask one question. I go to the call center again, and I have another employee who comes to me and answers my query. And instead of X, Y, Z, they say you have to do B, C, D, E. And I see a conflict between two employees of the same organization, of the same brand, giving me two different point of views. The moment this happens, the trust factor that I have probably developed or I have not developed with this brand completely goes down. It goes into minus. It doesn't, I mean, it's not even there in the zeros. It's straight in the minus, and it'll take me a lot of unconvincing or convincing to be able to again bring myself back to trusting this brand. This is one scenario. How about we bring in the integrity of the employees? So we call ourselves, a trustworthy brand, but the moment, not even in news, there is one of my employees who has gone ahead, given a derogatory statement, or has done something which is not, up to the mark of being trusted, has done some kind of forgery. What happens to the audience? The audience again loses their faith in the brand. So when we are, employees become a very, very important factor to the overall picture of the brand that we want to present to our, to our consumers. I wanted to bring in this factor because a lot of times we generally forget, and in startups specifically, I have seen this. The CEO, the CTO, the C-level and the founders will be talking about their brand, breathing, eating, living the brand on whichever channels they're supposed to. But when you see there is 0 to just 1% participation of the employees who do that. So that becomes, a conflict within the brand itself, within the company itself, that, do the employees endorse the views of the brand or they don't? Because we don't see them talking about the brand, and it's just the promoters who are doing that. So that is another factor. I might not be able to, talk about all these factors, but I'll just talk about very important ones. So quality of product and services, like I said, your value proposition, which is your product, the quality of the product and services. If you don't have those, then that's, you don't have a brand to talk about. You don't have, a company which sells something, either a product or a service. Company values, like again, we have different values system that the company or the organization works with. Every person who's representing that organization, a stakeholder of the organization, needs to represent the same values and not try to contradict them. So customer experience, like we had spoken about. Community outreach. Now, again, so when I talk about community outreach, it is not the communities where we stay in. It is more the association of all the stakeholders, that is the ecosystem, the community, the ecosystem where we are. We need to create one picture, one brand, one message, which we need to communicate to the entire community where we belong. So that has to be a primary factor in our community outreach also, when we are doing that for our brand. And then the last one, then it's the last one is your logo and your tagline. So your physical element to your brand, that's there. But then, like I said, there are a lot of things apart from the logo and the tagline. So okay, so that's what it was. Now, so I work for this company called, this startup called Hesa, and wherein what we do is we bring in the rural population and we bring in the rural consumers to the urban brands. We bring both of them together, we bring them closer, and the brands can sell to the urban, to the rural population, and so on and so forth. The rural population, their produce and everything, they can sell to the urban brands through our digital platform, which is Hesa. Now, again, when you're talking about, the logo or the H for which Hesa stands for, it is 2 lines, which is your rural and your urban, and there is one arch or one bridge which is going from the left to the right. It is nothing but what Hesa stands for. So we are the digital platform which combines or which brings the urban brands closer, and which connects the urban brands to the rural consumers. So when we talk about our logo, now let's talk about the logo. We a lot of time we we just pick up a name that we would love to have. Sometimes we just pick up an element of the name and try and see how we can juggle and bring it together and then create a tagline with it. But when you actually do the math, you should be able to belong to the logo that you have chosen, the name you have chosen for your company. So till the time you belong, it can be your name and your spouse's name, first two letters of those names brought together. That's perfectly fine, but you should feel belonged, and that should make sense to the actual product or service that you are selling or you are working for. We have seen a lot of times, the name suggests something, and the brand or the product or service that is being sold is completely different. So that's where most of the disconnect come. And like I said, we can talk about our brand through our messaging, but the first thing which comes to any consumer's mind or any person who's looking at your brand is that logo, is that name, is that tagline with which you will introduce yourself. So I sometimes say a brand is nothing but a visiting card of your startup. So that's the way your brand should be. The moment you talk about the name, the moment you give a tagline, what you are, the other person knows that what they are selling and what they are talking about. And then the last element of branding is, how do you create a lasting brand? So again, that is something which does not happen overnight, and surely does not happen with only creating the physical elements. You need to have some internalization of your brand within yourself and your team to be able to get the meaning or the positioning of your brand out to your consumers. So one of it is consistency. You need to be consistent. You definitely need to be creative with your brand. You need to establish that emotional connect with your consumers, users, and your customers. So we may call them with different names: consumers, users, customers, but then they are, at the end of the day, your audience. In fact, those people who are not even your consumers or your customers are still your audience, because they look, they see you, they form a perception of you in their minds, and then they talk about you, even though they've not used you. I have never seen a person who doesn't have an opinion of any, of something or the other the moment you speak out a name. That's the way a human nature is. They find associations very fast, and they find perceptions very fast. So the moment they start perceiving you, and if they don't perceive you in the right way, you already have lost 40% or 50% of your battery. Set yourself apart from the others, that is your competition. So that is very, very important in how do you create a lasting brand? Because the moment you will set yourself apart, you will be remembered, you will be spoken about. And lastly, there are a lot of tools which help you create that branding for your company, for your startup. I will be talking personally about two tools which are the building blocks of any branding activity, and then I will be talking about the framework of branding. It might just be a little superficial right now for you all to understand, so feel free to ask me more questions on that framework, and of course these tools the moment I start talking about them. So probably first I'll discuss both the tools, and then I can ask questions, or we can have questions later once my presentation is over. So I'm fine with both the things. So the tool one is customer journey map. So in customer journey mapping, what happens is we are talking about how my customer has to get engaged with me. Again, I'm not selling the product right now. What I'm doing is trying to find out ways of engaging my customer and trying to find different touch points wherein I can engage my customers or consumers. So when I identify these touch points, when I identify this engagement pattern, only then I'll be able to sell my product to them by bringing out the right value propositions, which they will take in easily or they'll understand better because I have reached them at the right touch point and I have engaged them with me already. So these two things, the touch points and the engagement, decides how my consumer will be able to understand and get a perception of my brand and then buy my products and services. So here again, it is a little intricate, wherein we are looking at an entire marketing jingbang over here, that is your traditional marketing as well as your digital marketing, digital being more in the forefront now because of the physical touch not being there. But yeah, we still use traditional marketing methods, and a lot of brands, especially FMCG brands, cannot let go of the traditional marketing methods, even though they are very, very prominent on digital marketing. So you have 5 aspects to a customer journey. The first one being how you get the attention of your consumer. So we need to find out ways and again engagements wherein I can get the attention of my consumer through various channels. That is, again, social media, physical marketing, traditional marketing, whatever it may be. So a simple thing like that. I mean, I want to sell, I want to sell a soap. Now, I need to first understand how can I engage my consumer when I want to sell the soap to them. Should I straight away start talking about my value proposition, or should I first bring them into the zone that yes, it is something that you need every day, and you need it for your hygiene, you need it for your well-being, so that you don't catch diseases. So these are the various engagements that I'm talking about. So I can either talk about my value proposition, or I can talk about why do they need a soap. So when I am trying to get an attention of my consumer, wherein that means the consumer has never heard about me. When I'm trying to get that, I'm not talking about my value proposition at that point of time. I'm actually talking about what is this product useful for. So the moment I get their attention by saying you need to be hygienic, you need to be disease virus free, you need to be keeping yourself clean, these 3 points become my attention seeking engagement patterns that I can use for this particular stage. Then comes your consideration, wherein you talk about your, when you talk about your competition. So you say that, why are you better than your competition? So that is your consideration part. Then comes the buying part. And sometimes, and in fact, a lot of times, not sometimes, a lot of times, mind you, 50 to 60% of times, people or sales people just stop there. They just stop at the buy proposition and just close the chapter that yes, my work is done. Your work is 50% done, I would say. You need to work on your after sales, you need to work on your loyalty. The moment you sell the product, the actual work of trying to get that person to either buy back from you again or get to talk about you needs to be also worked on. So that's what I'm saying. Your engagement patterns should be ready for this entire cycle, and then you go ahead and you create engagements for that. But first you identify these patterns. So that was about customer journey mapping. You have the second tool wherein that's the way you will be able to again associate or bring your brand in the forefront with your consumers, is your your business model canvas. The business model canvas is pretty simple when you look at it. The value proposition of your product or service becomes in the middle. Your left side is only got your cost and your expenditures. Your right side has got your customers and your revenues. And what we do is we create an entire exhaustive list of what your each topics, that is your value proposition, your customer segments, your customer relationships, your channels, your resources. You create an exhaustive list, and then you start prioritizing it, because the moment you start prioritizing it, you will get to know what is the immediate action that you need to take to be able to bring your brand in the forefront of your product or your company. So once you bring the brand in the forefront and you do this exercise of creating various customer segments and giving your different channels, that prioritizing your different channels wherein you will be talking to your customers through, you have already found the right way of going to your consumer. Then you will need to work on the positioning of your brand. How do you want to position your brand? So business model canvas brings in the focus on your entire ecosystem in which your product, your service is built in. And then a small change in any of these streams, like when you're talking about the revenue stream, I am right now looking at I am a B2B brand. I am giving a service to a business, and I am looking at, actually, instead of first things, I started off with a yearly package with them, but now I am thinking of going for a quarterly package. My revenue stream was only one at that point of time, which was a yearly package, and I had created all my communications according to that. Now I've gotten myself into a quarterly package, which gives actually the brand this way, the consumers the way out, that if they are not happy with my product or service, they can leave me in that quarter. So now the moment I do this, my channels through which I am selling this product and service need to also be worked on and tweaked upon. I cannot have the same channel that is, a consultant or a business partner in a state which is only selling, yearly package. Now I'll have to also enable them to start first thing selling the quarterly package, and also then start taking feedbacks or doing follow-ups every quarter. So that's where my customer relationship will come into picture. So any minor change in any aspect of the business model canvas has ripple effects on other aspects of this business model canvas and needs to be worked on in tandem. You cannot just change one aspect and just leave it. Once you do this, you again get a different kind of communication that you will be working with, or a different kind of consumer engagement pattern. So that's the crux of, how do you go about doing branding for your product to your consumers. And like they say, Rome was not built in a day. So I would like to just, if you remember, in the start of this session, I had spoken about brand is not just a logo and a tagline. It is much more than that. I will now bring out the physical and the non-tangible aspects of a brand, which you need to work on. So, like I said, it's a continuous process, and it is, the physical aspect is a logo and a tagline at the end of the day. But the intangible aspects of brand is your personality of the brand, is your identity, it is the image of your brand. And as I was talking about the positioning of the brand, that's what I was saying. The positioning is the intangible, aspect of your brand, but it's very much there. It is right there, in front of you. You need to work on it to be able to get your communication, your engagement, and your brand correct the first time. Awareness, loyalty, these are the different, intangible aspects of branding. Branding essentials. So again, what I've done is I've just brought some words to it, but like, just highlighted certain aspects of these factors. So your branding essentials, that's the brand identity, is nothing but the brand, the way you want the brand to be perceived is your brand identity. The way you have a, so you need to if you remember the Tata example, whenever we talk about Tata, we talk about trust. That's the personality of Tata. So it is a consumer's or an audience's nature to bring in a personality trait to your brand. So the moment that personality trait is something which you have not foreseen, you either accept it, or at the start you create a personality trait which will be shown to the to the audience instead of you getting it from the audience. So these I would say these 6 elements actually form a very, very big aspect of your entire branding exercise, and these are nothing but an organic way of branding your organization. You just talk about these particular aspects and you see where your brand stands and what is the position, what does your brand offer to the consumers. You will get these aspects correct. And this is the branding framework that I was talking about. So what happens is your brand identity is in place. You have spoken about your brand identity, you brought in your brand personality, you brought in your brand positioning. Now positioning again is divided into 3 aspects. One is point of reference. Now point of reference is nothing but you vis-a-vis your competition. So you are where are you standing in that grid that your competition is standing. So that point of reference is you get your 3 different points. What we generally do is we say that you get 3 important point of references so that you can then create point of differences. So differentiation, that is your value proposition. How do you work is you bring in your value proposition and then you bring in your competitors' point of reference against each value proposition. That's how you will get your point of reference and you will get your value proposition in place, which again, you have your product and service and you know who is your target audience and whom do you want to sell it to. You already have that in place. Once you have these 3 aspects in place, you will get your brand positioning. That means where do you want to place your brand in the entire market segment. Once you get that, all these 3 aspects, that is your brand identity, your personality, and your positioning. So brand communication, and with the brand communication, you have whatever goes out, people or consumers become aware of it and they start creating an image of your brand within their minds or within their consciousness. So the moment that image is created, that brand awareness is created, you will know that how your consumers have taken in your brand. And if you feel at that point of time that no, this is not the way I wanted my brand to be positioned or my brand to be identified, you can again do the same activity, which is, if you see this brand communication activity is nothing but the engagement pattern and the communication that goes out from your brand to your consumers. So that needs to be tweaked, and it's very frankly speaking, it's not a one shot kind of a game. You will be working on it at least on a regular basis, say weekly, not weekly, at least monthly. You work on this particular communication every month, see what is the kind of brand perception your consumers have, and come back to either tweaking your communication, or once you have settled down, or once you have realized that yes, this is the communication I want, or this is the kind of positioning I'm looking at for my brand, then you are in a place where you can start, then your communications become to those points or the point of references that you have created. And again, your thought leadership content, your advertisements, all these things will then revolve around that communication pattern that you've created for your brand. Customer-based equity, like I had said, that brands get sold for a higher amount than their book values because they've been able to create that brand value for themselves. This is very, very later down in the entire future of this startup community. But then yes, it is something which can be done, which is doable, and will only happen once your brand is accepted and which is looked upon by your consumers. So yeah, that's about it from my side. If there are any questions you want to ask on those tools or those activities that I've spoken about, I am open for that.
Okay, so I want to address everyone in the participant group that if you would like to ask anything about particular your venture or something, just come forward and ask our Mili questions. We have one question in chat box from
Yes.
Maya.
Yes, what is customer empathy map and how to make that? So
Make that.
Customer empathy, I believe you will be able to find how to make that map on the net, but I'll explain to you how does customer empathy come into picture. So customer empathy is nothing but an emotion which your consumer or your customer is pushing towards you. So it is pushing towards the brand. You will not be able to identify to that emotion unless and until you start first thing taking feedbacks on your brand or your product and services from your consumers. Once you start doing that, you get to know what is the emotion that they are in right now. Generally, the emotions that we are talking about is either they trust you, they don't trust you, they they are in the process of understanding you better to be able to trust you. One thing is that. The second thing is your NPS score. So the moment they are they are talking about you or they are willing to promote you to the other consumers, it clearly means that you have taken that, you have gone into the right direction of creating that customer empathy for them, and hence they are talking about you or giving referrals to you. So the ultimate, you can say the ultimate answer is your NPS score, but you don't reach there immediately. You first build their their trust or build the engagement level so that they can trust you better, and then they'll be able to emotionally connect with you. Thanks, Mukesh, for being there. So Mukesh is dropping off.
Mili. Yeah, I'll be dropping. Have another call at 5 p.m. Thank you so much, Mili.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
And so Ratan has put up his hand. Ratan, please ask me whatever you have in mind.
Mili, so while it would be quite early for a startup to start considering itself a brand, and as you mentioned, it's a little down the line that we actually get there. I want to understand, is brand value really quantifiable? If yes, then what are the metrics that a startup should work on in the sense to to be able to measure that brand value?
So these are the metrics here the startup needs to work on when they want to work on their brand value. Like I said, none of these are paid components or financial components until your customer based brand equity, which comes into play. But up until there, you have all the elements you need to create your brand, and you need to constantly work on it. In fact, even after you get your correct brand communication, a little tweak in your brand personality or the identity of your brand will again ask you to rework on the entire framework to be able to get the communication again better. So your question was, brand value is very much a tangible, very much a financial existence. You will not get there very soon, but like I said, work on the organic factors to be able to at least form a base on which you can start working the moment you feel that you are comfortable spending some money on your brand. I hope I've answered the question, Ratan.
Yes, yeah, partly yes, but I was like trying to decipher metrics in the sense, maybe, I think
Your voice is cracking, Ratan. I can't hear you. Can you type your question on the chat box?
Yes, sure, I'll do that.
I am open to taking more questions from other people as well.
Oh, might be I'm taking it that people have covered. So, do anyone needs to ask anything about specific?
So you can
Mili?
stop typing actually and start, just raise your hand and Bhagdasi can actually unmute you, because typing I know will take a longer time.
I have actually allowed everyone to unmute themselves and ask question. Yes, Mayank, please.
Okay, hello. Thank you so much, Mili. अच्छा लगा आपसे बात करके और आपका सेशन सुन करके.
Thank you.
और जैसा आपने आंसर दिया, कुछ कुछ मुझे समझ आया, बाकी मैं इंटरनेट पे भी जरूर देखूंगा कस्टमर एम्पैथी मैप के बारे में. ओके, सो मेरा एक क्वेश्चन था यहाँ पे, मतलब बेसिकली एक पूछनी थी चीज, जो AIC अटल इंक्यूबेशन सेंटर, उसके अंदर एनरोल करने के लिए या फिर उसका पार्ट बनने के लिए मुझे एक प्रोसेस जानना था.
ओके, सो मयंक, डेफिनेटली ये क्वेश्चन का आंसर भगदासी आपको दे पाएंगे. आप एक काम करें, थोड़ा सा ये लंबा लगेगा टाइम एंड इसमें काफी चीजें होती हैं जो आपको फॉर्म्स भरने होते हैं प्रोबेबली. आप अपना ईमेल आईडी चैट में डाल दीजिए एंड भगदासी विल रिप्लाई टू यू थ्रू एंड टेक यू थ्रू द प्रोसेस.
Yes, definitely. Just get connect with us after this session and we'll have word on this.
थैंक यू सो मच. मैंने मेल डाल दिया है चैट पे.
Anybody else who wants to?
Yes, Ratan has asked his question that what could be a good brand tracking exercise for startups that are 3 years old.
That's the framework I was talking about. So if somebody wants to take a screenshot of it, this is a framework which I have come out with after 5 years of working with brands and being able to understand what are the key elements that are required to be able to get that brand image and that brand value in place. There are different frameworks that you can work on. The moment you do a search, you will get a lot of frameworks on the internet also. Like I said, this is something that I work with all my brands, and that has always given me value. So we can work on different things as well. Do the investors consider startup brand value while valuation and funding, how they evaluate? So Shalin, it all depends on what is your your startup age, and like I said, does this startup have that brand value that you are presuming that the startup has? But there are like different tools which can be used to actually create or see that brand valuation. But generally what happens is with startup, the thumb rule is that you are you're looking at funding, and they will value you as per the given matrix that is there for any startups which are going on, which is your GMV, your users, your traction rate, and so on and so forth, depending on what product you're selling, product or service. That is depending on the investors. You will have to leave that option open for them, or actually the investors should leave that option open for you. I will not be able to comment on that, because see, everybody has their own way of evaluating a startup. Investment firm A might do it a different way, B might do it a different way. In fact, when you are talking or when you are negotiating with these investment firms, you can you can pick up this kind of valuation format also and explain to them that this is the kind of brand value that my brand already has. For that, of course, you will need to work on the matrix and showcase it to them. In fact, the pitch deck is nothing but what you want to showcase to your investors, and that's where you will be putting in your the entire focus on your brand or your product and service, so whichever way it goes.
Yes, definitely. So we have, I guess, yeah, Sony and Bhushan, both of you wants to ask something. Yes, go ahead, Sony, and then we'll take with the Bhushan.
First of all, thank you so much,
Yes,
ma'am.
please, Sony.
It's really wonderful session, and I think I have learned lots of things from here. Just I want to get a light on that. Just you have told, just if your employee is there, they must have to focus on company's brand also. Just like we totally focus on the customer, that customer remember us, customer know us, what our brand values and all that thing. So what the things we can do to enhance our employees, just like inside that about our brand, and how they can cooperate us to build a great brand for our company and all that things.
So see, this is a continuous process. So I mean, you cannot bring in a employee, explain them, this is my brand value, this is how the brand should work, and the brand stands for, and this is how you've got to communicate. It's a continuous process. So during the induction, so when you are actually, it goes before the induction also, when you are selecting the employees, there is this very specific column when in an interview sheet wherein they say that is the employee agreeing or compatible with the brand value of your company or with the values of your company. They don't use the word brand. So that is what we are looking at when we are when these employees are speaking to you or giving their interview. You are talking about your brand. They should concur immediately, or they should be able to fit well into that brand by whatever. So any past experience that they have done, or when they quote about some experience of theirs, or some kind of engagement that they have already had with the brand. So that is one thing when you are hiring employees. Then during the induction, you can talk about the values that your company stands for. A small welcome message from the founder, which says that I started this company at this point, I got this company up to this. That just brings in a very, very see, it's more about an emotional connect. So the moment you have an emotional connect with your employee, the employee understands your brand or your company very well. They will be able to showcase that well to the customers. But the moment you don't have these different touch points, again, this is all about touch points. This is all about engagement. How well you engage with your employees to be able to bring that patriotism for the brand. That is, or the connect with the brand is important.
Just like we have a patriotism for our country, so we have to create such kind of trust with our employees too, that they believe on our brand and they can enhance that.
And they mirror it to their consumers.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am.
Welcome. So
Thank
Bhushan
you.
is there.
Yes, Bhushan, you can go ahead.
Yeah, are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So, ma'am, a very nice session. I liked it very much based on the examples which you gave.
Thank you.
Basically, my brand is Engineers Connect. As the name suggests, it's connecting engineers and helping them upskill and get jobs. So luckily, we got this name available, Engineers Connect. So what I want to do is I want to brand it in a way that every engineer is aware of this platform and every engineer gets on this platform. Okay. But that's where I need suggestions that how I can advertise this brand for engineers, like making them friendly with this and like considering as a must to go on, like every engineer must be on this platform. So that is one of the things. And the second question is like there was someone who asked the same question, like does the investors consider brand value, like in the brand name, the trademark which we have got, and our traction on all the social channels and everything? Yeah.
Okay, so the first brand value question I'll answer. Again, it is an intangible as well as a tangible element. The more people know you, the more the more they talk about you, the more they concur to your values, you have a brand which is, valuable. So that's where your brand value stands. Again, you don't have to put monetary or money into this. You can only look at the intangible assets and then see whether they all get translated into the brand value or the brand identity, and then that brand identity will be the identity you will use to create that value for your consumers, your stakeholders. Now again, for you, your consumers are not the only stakeholders. Your vendors, your investors, your employees. So again, like I said, your ecosystem itself has a lot of stakeholders. Every stakeholder looks at you with a different glass, and they want a different value to come out of your brand for themselves. So you need to fulfill those values again by communicating to them, by engaging with them, and seeing that they are trust, or they are, you are a reliable brand for these stakeholders. That is your brand value. The first thing, the first question that you asked me was, can you just come back on that, Bhushan?
Yeah, so first question I asked was like, how do I put in enough value into this brand so that I attract more users? Like the name itself is Engineers Connect. So like I want
it
the
to be
name
synonymous to engineers and upskilling them. I completely get it. So here is where your thought leadership will come into picture. So the moment you start connecting with them again emotionally, that is, if they have a pain point, try and resolve that pain point. If they have, if there is a common factor, which is a recurrent challenge, a recurrent issue, which you can, remove, or at least minimize it through your product or the service that you're giving them, that becomes your unique value proposition, and that will talk to your engineers and sell your brand to them. So it's just a cycle. So you find the pain points that you want to address for these engineers. You try and resolve them with your product or service. How will you do that? You will communicate that to your audience, that is your engineers. They will find value in your brand because you are resolving their pain points, and they will probably be those referral points or those word of mouth that you are looking to create a synonym brand value for your brand with the engineers. So it all will come with a little give and take from your company to the engineers and the engineers to you.
Yeah, that's totally right. So basically we are a community of engineers, as well as we provide upskilling and training. So there are two ways which I thought of doing it. I thought of sending a mail which just tells them that this is a community just for engineers, join it. And second is by telling about the products and services, like the pain points. So one is like on the emotional end, that an exclusive community of engineers, and second is on the other end, which is telling them the products and the pain points. So what do you think can work
the
better?
Products and the pain, sorry, the pain points will be the emotional connect. It will not be that please come and join me. So when you pick up that one pain point and showcase it by saying that this is how we resolve this pain point, and you will be in good hands the moment you join us, is building that trust in them, and that's how they will come. They will not come with you saying that we have created a community of engineers and we want you to join them. They don't see any value add that you're doing to them.
Okay, fine.
All right. So, I think
Mili, we have covered a lot insightful talk with you, and yes, we have one more.
We have good brand value, how to showcase, write intangible, tangible brand value on paper, how to tell how big value we have. It will all speak for you, Shalin. A brand value can also be considered with the number of followers you have on your social media account. A brand value can be considered through the NPS score that you have got through your consumers. A brand value can be considered how do you address attrition on your app or your product. So brand, like I said, it is not just one component, and it is again not a monetary component. It is more a complete ecosystem and the different touch points and the stakeholders, what they talk about you. So the moment they talk about you, the way you want them to talk about you, that is when I'm saying you, it is your brand. You have created enough brand value. That means then it is upon the person who's evaluating you or the organization that is evaluating you, whether they want to consider that as a value, brand value point, and also on a factor on at which level you are. So if you are in a demanding level, you can have as much brand value as you want. If you're not in the demanding level, either you create that demand level or you submit to whatever they give you. Yes, it is definitely metrics. Oh, Faninder asked me, how much is the shelf life of a brand? The shelf life of a brand, please tell me what is the shelf life of Tata? So if it's a brand, it is a brand, it will be written in history. So you cannot compare the shelf life of a brand, but you cannot even say that I have done the brand framework exercise once when I started my organization, and 1 year down the line I will do the same. I mean, I'll conduct the same engagement, or I'll conduct the same I'll write the same content or have the same engagement with my consumers and it'll stay. No, you have to do this create that brand framework exercise almost every 6 months when you are initially a small startup, and at least once a year when you get into that big leagues of probably a unicorn and so on and so forth.
Yes,
I think this will be the best way. So please drop me a question on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Actually, we have covered a lot time of yours as well. So thank you so much, Mili. Thank you so much for having wonderful session with us. And I like to thank you for taking such an informative session and enlighten all of us about so many important factors on building a brand, right? So what are the essential of branding aspects? You have wonderfully explained about brands, its value proposition, and so much crux about them, along with BMC, which many startups found difficult in lean tech to fill it up. From this same participant group, I would to address all the participants this, but you have made it like a fun here. So thank you so much for that. As also, I would like to address all the participants here that if anyone has not submitted their pitch deck or any other lean tech activity has not performed yet, please do it. At least you need to make some activities on that, so that our evolution process can be define your activities and get you considered for the further process. Okay, so once again, thank you so much, Mili, for this wonderful session.
And thanks for having me. Lovely audience. I mean, it's been a great, whatever, 1.5 hour, how much ever time we've spent, but it's been really interactive, and I love the questions that came up. Anybody, if you have any kind of clarification, you need a little more knowledge about very specific to your product or your service that you are going for, you need some clues about branding, I am available on that on the LinkedIn profile, and you can message me and we can take it forward from there. And all the best, everyone, for the nearest target, that is your pitch time, which is on the 15th, right?
Yeah, 15th is a valedictory session we are having as a conclusion session, but might be tomorrow, 13th, we are having their MOOC pitching round.
Okay, all the best, everyone, for all your milestones and for the future, which is really very bright in India.
Yes.
Take care, everyone. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.